Teach me to play someone above myself.
Hey everybody, welcome into the Big Bro Show. I am your host, Ty, joined alongside my co-host as always, Jared.
Hey.
And we got a special guest today, Carter. Welcome in, my friend.
Thanks for having us, boys.
We have a Australian on our hands today, ladies and gentlemen, and I am extremely excited about that. I love the Australian accents, and to have a fellow Aussie here on the show today, I'm fucking pumped. So let's go, boys.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So this is going to be a little bit of a different episode than we usually do. And this is more down my road. I enjoy the comedy stuff. I enjoy messing around, having fun. So this is going to be more of a parenting fails type of episode. Since part of our show obviously is geared towards the parenting part. So this will kind of be a good little overview of some people who have had some failures in their parenting lives, and we'll discuss. So without further ado, I will start with the first one. So the title of this one, and all of these stories, by the way, are from Reddit, which I fucking love Reddit. I get so many good laughs out of this app here. So this very first one is called Toddler Calls My Bluff. So I used to read him stories until he fell asleep and then exit the room. This worked for a while, but then one day he made me read stories for over 2.5 hours and was still awake late at night. So I had to come up with a plan that didn't have the chance of hours of storytelling. I started telling him we'd read 5 stories and then lights off and time to sleep. Sometimes it would work and he'd stay in bed, and sometimes it wouldn't, and he would be in and out of bed too many times to even count and need more stories to fall asleep. So then I started to tell him that I'd be back in a minute to read the extra stories as I had something to do, and that I'd be back. Then in my absence, in the dark, he'd usually fall asleep. This worked for a long time until he started asking me where I was going. First time he asked, I thought, what would be a good place he'd know he couldn't come with me? I know, the toilet for a Kaka. This also worked for a good while, but then all of a sudden it didn't, and this is where the malicious compliance comes into it. So this is a dialogue between the father and the son. Daddy has to leave the room for a minute. I'll be right back. You stay here, okay? Okay, but where are you going? I'm going Kaka, but don't worry, I'll be right back in a minute. No, stay. I really need to Kaka, so I can't stay. I'll be right back, okay? You really need Kaka? Yes, I'll be right back as soon as I'm done. Okay, let's go Kaka then. No, you stay here. I'll go Kaka on my own and come straight back. No, I'll come with you. Then you can come back to bed with me after. Basically, this went on for ages, a tug of war, a battle of wills, and finally the stronger of the two of us prevailed and the weaker of us gave in. So yes, my toddler escorted me to the toilet like a man with a hostage, sat on the step next to the toilet, and made me take a shit that I absolutely didn't need to and had no idea was even there, all the time eyeballing me, asking me, you finished Kaka yet? When I finally had finished, he escorted me back to his bedroom to carry on reading more stories like I had always said would happen but never did, as he'd fall asleep while I was out of the room. I got my bluff called by my toddler, and in a weird way, I'm actually proud of him for calling me on my shit. Literally. After that, I never told him I needed a Kaka ever again.
You see, you know this is written from the perspective of a new parent, because if you've been a parent
Totally.
for more than one kid, you know boundaries like the bathroom do not exist.
Oh, God, yeah. I haven't taken a shit by myself in... It'll be 4 years next week.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm honestly...
Yep.
You're counting to the day, aren't
Wow.
you?
Oh, my daughter turns 4 next week. My oldest.
Oh.
But as far as the story goes, yeah, definitely relatable. My 2-year-old son, literally like 3 days ago, God bless his soul, he comes into the toilet and on the toilet, and he's just become really obsessed with his genitals at the moment. So he knows that that's his penis and that's his balls. So he starts pointing at mine. He's like, Daddy's penis, Daddy's balls. He's like, Daddy doing poo? And I was like, yep, Yeah, mate, I'm doing a poo. And then he tries to reach his hand in
Oh,
just to check if I am in fact doing a poo. And I was like, no, mate, no, we don't reach into toilet bowls, especially when people are sitting on them. It's a bit uncouth, a bit uncalled for. And then he looks at me again, looks back down at my junk and says, "Daddy's penis is yucky," and then runs away. I was just like, dude, what the fuck, guy? You've just ruined my favorite part of the day forever. Now, every time I go for a poo, I'm going to think about how my 2-year-old son thinks my junk is disgusting.
But just wait till your daughter does that, and and then you ruin.
No, she's already made the distinction that I have a penis and she does not, in fact, have a penis.
Hopefully, she didn't say Daddy's penis is gross, because that may ruin her for all men.
Well, she's told me from the get-go that she's going to have girlfriends. So, subliminally, yeah, that's correct. Sorry. I'm just coming off a 12-hour night shift. So, yeah, maybe I already ruined it for her.
Oh, man.
But, if my wife thought that my junk was gross, none of them would exist. So
Exactly.
Hey, you got a bright spot to look at.
There you go. I'm honestly surprised in that story the kid didn't come, bring the book and try and shove it under the door, but I've taken to locking the door when I'm in the bathroom because too much of that crap.
I don't know if any of your grandparents had back in the day if they had the doors that didn't have the locks on them. My grandparents totally did. They would have.
That's because your grandparents be fucking.
They totally had the doors that didn't have the locks on them, so anybody could barge in at any time.
Oh, man.
Oh, shit. That's a good one. All right.
I find it quite funny that he had to he went to the toilet without, in fact, having to go to the toilet.
Oh, I know.
I'm not sure if in America it's the same, but we've actually got a phrase for that, especially at work. It's called a dry shit. So it's when you don't want to work and you want to keep getting paid, so you just go sit on the toilet for 10, 15 minutes and take a dry shit.
I like that. I am going to definitely co-op that.
Yeah, it's a very common Aussie thing, yeah.
The one
we're fucking lazy.
No, I think that's worldwide, because I see on Reddit all the time the phrase "boss makes $1, I make a dime." That's why I poop on company time.
That's it. Yep. That's the great thing about taking a shit, is it is universal. We all do it.
And nobody wants to work.
That's it.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have ever seen on, most of the time I see it on Facebook. Sometimes I'll see it on Reddit where, you see kids who they're answering questions when they're in elementary school, preschool, and they have to write their answers out, right? Right. So I got a pretty good one. So this one is titled. This is actually in a newspaper that somebody published, I guess. It says, "What advice can you give the elderly?" And these kids look like they're about 4, 5, maybe 6 years old. So Danielle says, for the elderly, if you can't see well, learn sign language. Shayna says, if you can't walk, try running. And this one is totally fitting. This one had me laughing so hard. This kid's name is Dexter. He says, if you have blood sugar, take a knife, make a cut, and then let it bleed.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I love seeing all these little questionnaires that you give all these little kids and just seeing their imaginations go to work. It's so fucking funny.
Sorry, did you say his name was Dexter?
Dexter. Yeah, that's the kind of the
how fucking fitting.
Exactly.
How fitting.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow. That's a scary kid.
Yes, I would agree. All right. The next one, this is from these next three are from my very favorite subreddit called TIFU.
Yeah.
Today I fucked up. Yep. So this one is titled, and this is more geared towards the teenage parents, parents that have teenagers, I should say. Today I fucked up by thinking my son was having gay sex when he was just eating hummus. So I, 39 female, have a son, 15 male, and he brought a friend around today. They immediately went to their room, and I assumed they would just play some video games or whatever, so I was totally fine leaving them. It was about 30 minutes in when I was walking past, I heard sounds such as, "Oh my God, that's so good," and "It's so good with that in it," and various sounds. It really sounded like they were having gay sex. I was super weirded out by it, so I quickly went downstairs and waited for his friend to leave. When this friend left an hour or two later, I asked my son what they were doing in his room because although I don't mind him being gay and I know it's normal for teenagers to have sex, a condom really should be used, so I planned to confront him about that. However, the answer shocked me to my very core. They weren't having sex, they were eating hummus. I was shocked and initially didn't believe it. We had never had hummus before, and I asked him to show me the hummus if this was true. So he did, and I ate hummus for the first time, and oh my God, was it good. We experimented with different things in it, like bread and carrots, and it was great. Apparently, his friend had heard about how he had never had hummus before and thought this was absurd, so he planned a date for a hummus party. So yeah, it ended up being quite a good ending. I discovered how nice hummus was. I found a follow-up to this thread, and so the mom comes back in and she says, as an update, the friend had jumped on Reddit and found this story
Oh my
on
God.
Today I Fucked Up and confronted the son about it. And the son actually fessed up to his mom and said, "Yeah, we actually were having sex."
With
My
hummus
friend
as
just
lube.
so happened. Yeah, my friend just so happened to bring over hummus, which was our original intention. But yeah, we ended up having sex.
Oh my God.
Obviously, my kids are not teenagers yet. I don't know
No.
about either of you.
No, not yet.
But I
Not
am
yet.
not looking forward to that time with all the weird shit because I remember how I was when I was a teenager.
Oh, my oldest is just getting to the age where they're starting to talk about that in school, and I am dreading the questions. And then he'll figure out why mommy and daddy's door is locked in the morning on the weekends.
Exactly.
Yeah, my oldest is almost 4, so I've got a little while to go. But yeah, just thinking back to when I was a teenager and all those shenanigans. Like I'm sure you guys have sex ed in high school over there.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I'm not
Yep.
sure. I'm not sure if the curriculum would be quite the same, but our sex ed, it was for a 13-year-old a little bit more confronting than you would expect. Like our teacher, her name was Miss Freeman. Miss Freeman brought in a bag of bananas,
Oh.
plastic bananas,
Oh God.
and you'd pull the skin off, and it was just like a little plastic toy dildo. And you know, like an entire class, like of 15 kids, all 13-year-olds, all of them had a dong each. And we had to put condoms on it. And I got kicked out of that class so fucking quickly because I started sniffing all the dildos, being like, "Miss Freeman, fucking hell, mate, you could have wiped them off a bit first, you know, it's a bit rough." And she was just like, "Get out." So I never actually got to do the old formal sex ed class, which could be why I'm such a scumbag.
Honestly, what do you expect with 13, 14-year-olds? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Seriously.
But no, we had when I was younger, I went to Catholic school. My kids go to Catholic school too, and there's this book in Canada called Fully Alive, and it starts in grade, where's Vaughn? 4. And they start teaching you about sex and the differences and everything like that. And he's starting to bring home these things now, and I'm starting to remember the lessons in class. And I remember one particular lesson, we went through the entire thing, like the sperm fertilizes the egg attaches to the blah, 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 all that stuff. And I remember one girl just puts her hand up and very curiously, "Teacher, I don't understand. How does the sperm get through the man's pants, the woman's underwear, and to the egg?" And everybody's just like, Holy shit. After all of this, you just asked that question. So yeah,
Primary school was a wild time. I remember the first time I ever heard about a period. A little girl was she was late to class. She was about 20 minutes late. I reckon it was grade 6.
yeah.
And she walks in and the teacher's like, "Why are you so late?" And, go to the principal's office. She's like, "I'm really, really sorry. I just got my period for the first time." And he was like, oh, okay, just sit down. And my grade 6 mind was like, fucking jackpot. So like a week later, I rocked up to class half hour late and he's like, "Why are you late?" And I'm like, "I got my period." And he's like, "Get out." So yeah, that didn't work.
Might work
It's
nowadays.
good to be educated, though. Well, that's it. Don't assume my gender.
Exactly. There you go. Bigoted teachers.
Yeah, I could be bleeding, especially if I've got a son named Dexter.
And high blood sugar, apparently.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of blood, when I was in elementary school, that was kind of my bullying age. So I believe it was like first grade. Yeah. This was around the time where, I grew up with like Beavis and Butthead and The Simpsons, shit that I shouldn't have been watching at that age. So me and two of my friends, we were sitting in class, and this girl in the front of the class, she was a total nerd, teacher's pet, all that kind of stuff. And she started to get a nosebleed. So the teacher starts freaking out. She didn't have any Kleenex or anything in the classroom. And so she had to leave the class to go to the bathroom. So she took about 2 minutes to come back. And in those 2 minutes, me and my two other friends, being the little bullies that we were, told this girl that if your nose doesn't stop bleeding, you're going to die. And this girl flipped shit and like stormed out of the classroom crying.
Wow.
And then my teacher came back, and she had sent the girl to the principal's office so she could deal with us. My God. And this was back in the day where, teachers would be able to go off on you and not get in trouble for it. And dude, she fucking let us have it. After that, I was like, okay, I'm not fucking with this teacher anymore.
Yeah.
She was brutal. She was like one of those old hags that, she just, she didn't give a fuck anymore. She was towards the end of her retirement, and she's like, you motherfuckers are going to get it today.
Sitting on the windowsill with a cigarette, wrapping the ruler. Remember the good old days when she used to be able to take a yardstick to kids?
Every school would have at least one of those teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Too. The ones that should have retired 15 years prior,
Yes,
but were just
exactly.
for some reason still there. And like, I'm so sorry. I'm just moving this around because, I'm a horrible person.
No, you're fine.
All right, that's much better for me. Yeah, just horrible people and shouldn't be around kids. But I had one teacher. She was my German teacher. We learnt German in school.
In
I'm not
Australia?
going to name names.
I'm sorry, that's curious. In Australia, you guys learn German.
So I went to a school called Flora Hill Secondary College.
Yeah.
And we learned 2 different languages.
Cool.
Indonesian and German.
Indonesia, I
which is
get.
just-
That's pretty close
Yeah,
proximity
because
to
it's
you.
pretty close, but yeah, German. But I rocked up really late to class one day, and she already hated my guts because I was an ADHD kid, I like bounced off the walls and whatnot. But I rocked up to class late as she was calling my name from the roll call, and I was like, "I'm here," and she instantly thought I was throwing up a Nazi salute.
Oh.
Which I wasn't
Yeah.
at all. But she flipped out, like literally started like throwing chairs and
Holy
shit. And I was like, I'm fucking out of here. I ended up getting suspended for a week, even though
Really?
I still to this day maintain my innocence. But she was just like, I'm not having you in my class. There's no way in hell.
Yeah.
So I just kind of had to cop it on the chin.
Probably
Not
should have
being
gone
very,
with the
very-
Probably should have gone with the period routine there, eh?
Oh,
Might
could-
have got-
yeah, maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, you should just say "I'm here" instead of "Heil Hitler." But, we live, we learn, boys. Just totally a joke, by the way.
Yes,
I'm not a
yes,
Nazi.
no. Holy shit.
Oh shit! All right. So I don't know how either of your guys' wives were when they were pregnant. Mine wasn't bad as far I'm talking like the mood issues. I hear a lot of stories about them. I never had to go through it, but I got a pretty good story about one here. So this one is titled, "Today I Fucked Up by Letting My Pregnant Wife Find Out What Submarines Are Really All About." So, the obligatory, this happened before my wife recently gave birth to our second child, and hormones were off the charts. My very pregnant wife wakes up, and I am already awake, having made coffee for myself and prepared tea in anticipation for a relaxed morning. I'm watching a PBS special about World War II submarines, and she sat down with her tea and started to watch. So my wife isn't a huge history buff, and I am constantly reminding her of the order of commonly known events. She is incredibly intelligent, but she apparently had a very boring history teacher and never absorbed the information. As such, she had no idea that submarines were actually torpedo-carrying murder machines that were designed to blow up their enemies. I look at her, and she is bawling, tears running down her face, and she says, But I thought submarines were just like for exploration and fun and stuff. I chalk it up to hormones, but I really ruined a nice morning, and needless to say, I was not getting laid the rest of that pregnancy.
No more manning the torpedoes.
I honestly expected that
yeah,
to
no,
go differently.
yeah.
I'd seen things on Reddit like that about how this one guy told his wife, pregnant wife who was in the pool, that she's essentially a human submarine now.
I can't relate. My wife was an absolute rock
Yeah.
during all three pregnancies. Never any outbursts or anything like that. I just gave her a nightly foot rubs, and yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing too. Like, you hear all this crap online, people complaining and stuff, and I was waiting for it, but it never came. And I mean, the fact that all three of us didn't have that experience makes me wonder if it's just a joke.
Yeah,
it's probably the ones that don't go through it just know how to shut their fucking mouths.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we don't go through it. You
Yeah.
know, the people that are on Reddit being like, my wife's a moody bitch at 8 months pregnant. And it's probably because you just don't know how to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And then their wives find it on Reddit, and there's a follow-up a few days later. Guess who's not getting laid for the rest of this pregnancy?
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Here's my last one, and this one had me fucking rolling. Today I fucked up by masturbating after my wife had our son. Now she thinks the house is haunted.
Oh.
So I have recently become a father. My son is a week old, and I have been home with mom and baby the whole time. Needless to say, I was getting a little restless at home, even with the lack of sleep that comes with a new kid. Normal, right?
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, my wife and I couldn't pass the time in the bedroom as normal, mainly due to the expected impact of childbirth. My son's huge head didn't help things, so I decided not to bother my wife and sleeping baby and slipped off to the bathroom with phone and lotion to discreetly take care of business. Perusing my go-to site, I find the video of choice. First thing that pops up is an ad of a girl yelling, "Oh, baby," with the volume on my phone at full blast. I quickly turn it down and proceed to business. I return to my wife in the living room, and all I see is shock on her face as she holds my son looking worried. I ask, "What's wrong?" fearing she is mad at me for taking care of business solo. She looked at me, dead serious, and said, "Something whispered, 'Hey, baby,' to our son after you left, and now I'm freaked out." For some background, my wife believes in ghosts and spirits, as crazy as it sounds. She has told me about seeing odd things in our house and believing she heard people talking before. So this did not help, and she is even more worried with our new addition. She, she is currently burning sage through our house to remove the spirits. I don't have the heart to tell her I was just horny and she overheard me watching porn.
At this point, just sell the house. Cut your losses.
Just tell her to sage the toilet because there's about 1 million dead kids in there.
Oh my god.
My wife is
Oh, the
totally
old-
into all that shit too, and this post just had me fucking rolling.
Pretty
Thankfully,
funny.
I never had to go through this.
Yeah.
I as far as like trying to be sneaky with your phone, I was about to leave for. Oh, sorry, my wife was about to leave for work one day, and I'd just gotten home from night shift, and she kissed me goodbye and whatnot. Goes and jumps in the car, and I like didn't even wait until the car was on. I was like straight onto it, and I didn't realize that my phone was still within Bluetooth connection range to the car. So my wife turns the car on, and all of a sudden, my Selection was just blasting through the speakers at like 7:30 in the morning. And she's just like, she messaged me and she's like, fucking nice, dude. I'm like, let's never discuss this again.
Have a good
I now
time.
wait about 10 minutes before she goes. After she goes, not before.
You always got to check and make sure your Bluetooth is turned off.
I see so many posts
That's
about that, and my phone will flip to my car when my wife goes to leave, and I see so many posts about it that I'm just so cognizant of it.
Yeah, look, it's something that will never happen again. It's a one and done for me. But I also am really, really bad at, like, I've got a 8-month-old baby at the moment, and she's been a fucking horrible sleeper. My first two were brilliant. From like 3 months, they slept 12 hours through the whole night. But this one was like up every half hour for the first 6 months. So I'd be in the rocking chair in her room, and I'd finally get her to sleep after like 2.5 fucking hours of just rocking back and forth and like just about losing my mind. And then I'd go onto TikTok, and my phone would be on full blast and just wake her up. And yeah, I had to stop taking my phone into the room because I'm just too forgetful.
Yeah.
See, that's why I'm scared to have a third, because my two kids were just little angels for the most part. They were both sleeping through the night, I would say, by like 2-3 weeks. And they were doing all kinds of stuff that was like way ahead of schedule that they should have been doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my wife, of course, she wants more kids because we produced such cute kids. And she's like, oh, let's try for another one. And I'm like, honey, we got lucky with the first two.
Yeah.
We are not taking our chances. I am enjoying getting my 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. So
That was the
I
thing.
will just say that everyone that has told me, and there's been a lot of them, they told me that there's not much of a difference between 2 kids and 3 kids. After 2, it's not much of a difference. And to that I say, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fucking liars. Absolute liars, man. There is such a transition from 2 to 3 because you are now outnumbered.
Yeah.
And you don't have enough arms to hold them all. And jealousy comes into play. And it's...
But jealousy with 2 as well.
So overwhelming, dude.
Yeah.
So overwhelming.
Well, that's...
But I've finally hit the rhythm.
That was the thing with we've got 2, and like as soon as I could, right off the bat, I'm just like, yep, get her snipped, get her done. The doctor's like, are you sure? I'm like, just fucking get in there and finish it off. I do not want another one. Because between our first and second, there's about 3 years. So I got that window where he was getting independent and I could get my life back, and then bam, right into another one. So we lost it all. And then, yeah, like you said, the jealousy. And right now, when both of them want something, I've got 2 voices, daddy, daddy, daddy. Imagine a third one in there.
Yeah, it's a lot. We always had planned for 4. And even when we had the 2, I was like, yeah, 4 will be sweet. 4 will be sweet. Now we've got 3, and I'm like every day, like, can I get the snip? And she's like, no, what? what if we want another one? And I was like, the only way you're getting another one is if I have a fucking oopsie and you decide that it's go time. I'm like, please just let me have a snip. Because my wife has actually almost died for all 3 births
Holy
for vastly different reasons. So the first time, all 3, she's had hemorrhages.
Yeah.
And they've gotten progressively worse.
Oof.
So for the first baby, my daughter was born unresponsive. My wife started bleeding out, and because my baby had a shoulder dystocia, so she got stuck. Second one was an emergency Caesar, another pretty gnarly bleed. And the third one was an emergency C-section via general anesthetic, because they jabbed her in the back with like 7 or 8 needles, and she could still lift her leg. And she didn't have any numbness. They were just like, we're just going to have to knock her out. And she lost like over 3 liters of blood.
Wow.
Holy
so
shit.
I'm just like, not only are we grossly outnumbered by these little hell spawn, but if we go for 4, you'll probably die and fucking leave me to deal with all 4 of them.
Well,
I think that's what her intention is. Do
Yeah,
not fall
probably.
for it. There is a red alert coming up on my screen. Do not fall for it.
Yeah. Red flags everywhere.
It's probably her way of, instead of her being moody through all 3 pregnancies, she's just been planning to die on the 4th, just to get back at all the dumb shit that I did for all 4 of the pregnancies.
And then she can laugh at you from the afterlife and haunt you.
And that's it.
You're gonna be getting
Go
sage
into
in
my
the
kid's room at night and say, "Hey, baby,"
and see you sitting there burning the sage. That shit doesn't work.
burning the sage. Is that what we're calling it? What are you doing in there? I'm just burning the sage. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
The next time you get caught with the Bluetooth on her car, she texts you, I'm just burning the sage, babe.
Just burning some sage.
Got to get rid of those ghosts. Oh, man.
Jared, how did your wife have you guys' 2 kids? Naturals?
Both natural, yeah. The first one was a pain in the ass. He did not want to come out, and it's funny because they're like, okay, we got to try some interventions, so we'll put you on nitrous. She was on nitrous for probably about 8 hours. The doctor comes in and he's like, so how long has she been on nitrous? Like an hour or 2? And the nurse is like, 8. He's like, the fuck, are you serious? He's like, we got to do C-section now. And I'm like, well, what about epidural? She doesn't want C-section. We'll go to like the most extreme. But so we got the epidural. Everybody calmed down, and he came out at 1:30 in the fucking morning. So yeah.
Nice.
Second one was water dropped and then whoop, gone. Right
Nice.
out. Yeah.
Nice. How did both of you pump the nitrous as well while you had the chance?
No, no. I was actually making sandwiches. For our first pregnancy, we just stacked a cooler with like cold cuts and drinks and snacks. So I'm sitting there making sandwiches, and the nurses are coming in. I'm like, you want something to eat? We're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, no, I pumped the nitrous any chance I got. It's like in between contractions, my wife was just like, fucking take it.
One for you, one for me.
That's it.
But
So my wife tried having our firstborn naturally, and she just wasn't dilating enough. So come around, they broke her water, and it was like probably like 10 to 12 hours later that they were finally like, okay, well, this isn't working, so we're gonna have to do a C-section because we broke your water like a long time ago. So now, me being a first-time dad, obviously, I went in there with her into surgery, and I remember the anesthesiologist. She had a hard time trying to get the epidural, and so I remember my wife. She was laying there. She was like on the verge of falling asleep because she had been up most of the night.
yeah.
So she's got her hands splayed out, looking like Jesus Christ, and she was like, my arms feel really weird, like I can't feel anything. And one of her arms just totally droops off the back, falls down, and hits me. I'm like, doctor, is this normal? And she's like, we're just gonna get the baby out ASAP. The epidural is reaching like the top of her body, so we need to get this done.
Holy shit.
Oh,
So, they get my son out, and I remember looking at him, and I had no idea what a fresh baby was supposed to look like, right? Dude's head was shaped like,
Cone?
what the hell was the name? Yeah, do you remember that TV show back in the day where the kid, maybe Hey Arnold, where his head was shaped like a football?
Gerald.
Football head, yeah.
Gerald.
There you go. Yeah. I swear to God, that's what his head looked like.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, like, oh my God, my kid's got a deformity. Like, fuck. And the doctor's like, no, she was just trying to push and he got stuck.
Oh.
So that's what his head looks like. But it'll go back to normal in like a day. And sure enough, it did. But I just remember like totally fucking freaking out, like thinking my son was going to have a weird looking head like Gerald from Hey Arnold.
Pretty sure.
No
it
one
was
tells
Gerald.
you about any of that sort of stuff.
No.
Like,
No.
Like, I did a fair bit of preparation for our first kid, and like I read like, you know, the first time dad books and all of that. And I actually, you know, I was like, I tried to be super informed, and then the kid came out and I was like, what the fuck is this? Because every movie I've ever seen, a newborn's actually like an 8-month-old.
Yeah.
And none of it's realistic. And I didn't know about the soft spot on the head. I can't remember what it's called for
Yeah.
the life of me. We call it the off button, which is probably not something you should call it. But I can't remember the scientific name. I just know don't push the off button. But yeah, like I didn't know that their skulls weren't fused, and like you could just see parts of their skull.
Yeah.
There were cracks in it, and it
Yeah.
terrified me. I actually ended up with a bit of postpartum depression because I was just like, this thing's a lot more like petite and breakable than I anticipated.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to touch it. I'm going to fucking hurt. I'm going to hurt her by accident. I don't want to hurt her because I love her a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty intense. Sorry, I know that that's not what this podcast's for. Back to the jokes.
No, you're fine. This is totally fine. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like when the babies first come, and you know, you're like, the nurses are like, Dad, you want to hold him or hold her? And you're like, fuck no. Like, I'm scared I'm gonna break this
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I had to be the first one to hold her because my wife was bleeding out and projectile vomiting all over
Oh.
nurses. So I was like holding this thing while watching that. It was a very, very strange time.
The first
for me.
thing they asked me to do was the umbilical cord, and what they don't tell you about that is it's a lot harder to cut through than you think.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
it's
you think
definitely a lot
flesh, and,
tougher.
yeah, you think flesh and blood and all that, and you just whoop. I mean, like I've cut my fingers with knives before, and it's just whee. They give me these scissors, and it's like, eh. Is
Yeah,
this
like
hurting him?
surgically sharp scissors. And
Yeah.
it's just you have to actually like saw
Well,
into it.
After the second squeeze, I'm like, is this hurting them? No, they're fine. Okay, great. Ugh. Let's get her done in one blow.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
a
like-
lot.
It was like trying to cut a piece of celery or something.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, just like the texture of it and trying to cut through it. It was like really weird.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a really, really thick rubber band.
Oh, yes, definitely. Slimy, too. Like, you try and get the scissors in the
Slimy.
one spot, and they're sliding, and...
It tasted really weird too.
We're gonna have a bunch of moms who watch this. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys?
Oh, I'm sorry, mate. I don't know if you're going to have many mums watching after this one. Considering I've got my own podcast that's actually focused on serious stuff,
It's kind of weird to imagine that we're all on that kind of podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah.
Having an episode like this. This was a lot of fun, though. I enjoyed this.
Well, I want to jump
Yeah,
into one more funny story that I experienced with my firstborn, and it's not really a
Go for it.
parenting fail, but more of a nurse fail. So
Okay.
my son had been out for a few days. He had some complications. He was in NICU. He's all good and everything. So my wife's breastfeeding him. She's been feeding him for like 10, 15 minutes, and a nurse comes in. She's like, we got to weigh him. And my wife's like, okay. She's like, we're going to put him on this cold scale. Well, I was like, he hasn't pooped and peed in a while, and he's just finished eating. Do you think that's a good idea? Now, the funny thing about this, and I didn't realize it until Russell Peters said it, I think on his Red, White, and Brown special, that Indians have a really funny accent. She was Indian. So she was damn sure he wasn't going to pee or poop on this scale. So she puts him down. All of a sudden, you hear her go, "Oh, no. Oh, no, he's peeing. He's peeing everywhere." And, of course, he's just letting it fly, and you see yellow everywhere. And just as soon as my wife is about to say, "I told you so," you just hear, and he shit everywhere. And she lost her mind.
My first introduction to a fresh newborn baby poo, meconium, the black.
Oh,
tar.
yeah.
My best mate. He was my best man at my wedding. He'd been in my life for over a decade now. Absolutely great dude. He had just come to visit to meet my daughter for the first time. My wife was still in bed recovering, and I was like, "Okay, time to change a wet nappy." So I put her on the bed. And I've taken the nappy off, and my mate's filming me because I think it was like the second or third nappy that I had ever changed. But he was in disbelief that I had a kid, let alone I was willing to change nappies, because prior to having kids, I was just an absolute trash bag. So he was like, "This is really funny." So I'm filming it. So I start changing the nappy, and all of a sudden I see her butthole start winking at me.
Oh no!
And I was like, no. And then she does a fart, and like a rabbit poo sized pebble just straight into my mouth.
Oh.
And that was the first time I ever changed my baby's poo. And and it went in my mouth, and I was like, "You hold the baby," and I'm like running over to the sink, and I'm fucking vomiting everywhere, and it was horrible, absolutely horrible.
Oh, my God.
But I was like, you know what? That's the worst case scenario that could ever happen, and I'm really glad that I got that out of the way, like within 24 hours of being a dad.
Yeah.
Because it was all sweet from there. Nothing worse can happen.
Well, and then you learn a valuable lesson. When you're changing the diapers, make sure the fresh one's over top of that area while you're moving anything.
Yeah. Or I changed them all from the side now. I never stand front on.
I was just about to say that that's probably the greatest piece of advice for anybody who doesn't have a kid or you're new parent. Change the baby from the side. I do it every fucking day. That is a great piece of advice, Carter. Kudos to you,
100%.
And kids should have a warning like a claymore mine on the bottom, aim away from face.
You just need to get a blast shield for changing nappies. But if you also have a boy, make sure that their peen's pointing down as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, doesn't matter if you're changing him from the side. That can still get you.
When the flag goes up, you know you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said, like, when you go to move or something, you put that extra diaper over top.
See, my son is 3 years old now, and neither myself nor my wife have ever been peed on by him. I don't know if we've just gotten lucky or what, but I know my mom told me when I was a baby, I pissed all over the place when I was getting changed. So
it just means that the karma's still coming for you, man. It'll probably be when he's a teenager and starts stealing your car and going on joyrides and shit. And then you'll be angry at him, and he'll look at you and be like, "Yeah, but I never pissed on you as a baby, so we should be all good."
Oh, that's great. Any other stories for this week, boys? This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this.
Nah, not off the top of my head, really.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Hey, we can save some more for next month if you want to do it again.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd love to. Yeah, I've had a great time. Before we wrap up, if I may plug my podcast a little bit. This was great fun. It was good to have a chat and have a laugh. My podcast is called the Touched Out Podcast. I focus on new and old parents' mental health and the often overshadowed and undiscussed mental health issues and ups and downs that parents go through on a day-to-day basis, no matter what the journey. I have new guests on every fortnight. We are looking at releasing May 3rd. So I've got a couple of episodes recorded. I'm just banking them up. But yeah, any listeners out there, if you're interested in coming on and have a unique story, or happy enough to have a chat about mental health as a whole or anything like that, I'm an advocate for getting that sort of thing out in the open. It's healthy to talk about these things, and it's okay to not be okay, especially around parenting. So my podcast is a safe place to do that. Please feel free. It's a Touched Out Podcast. We're on Instagram, instagram.com/touchedoutpodcast.
And where are you posting to, Carter, once you get your episodes posted?
It will be everywhere as far as I'm aware. This is my first ever kind of foray into podcasting. So I'm going through Buzzsprout, which I believe they just post to like Apple, Spotify, Google, all the main ones at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
Yeah, there'll be more info as it becomes available on the Instagram.
So, all right, folks, that wraps up our parenting fail episode. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And when Carter drops his podcast, please go follow him as well. This dude is some good shit. I enjoyed him. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.